Good evening, Marcia.
Good evening, ma'am. Welcome, welcome. Listen, this is like fine wine. We've been waiting on this presentation, and I'm so happy you could join us tonight.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Marcia, for obliging me to present off camera and to those who share with us online. I thank you for allowing me to be off camera, but I've got some eye allergies and I would be a sight for poor eyes with on camera, but it in no way would take away from what I want to share, Marcia. And we did not compare notes, did we? Not at
No.
all. But it's quite interesting where um, that video that you showed, and it allows me a good point of entry. So thank you very much. What they say, great minds think alike. Could we say that without being pompous or without
Not at
being
all.
uh, 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 big-headed, as it were? But this brings us into so good night, loyal sons and daughters all, firm craftsmen of her faith. Um, Lines from our dear national anthem. And the national anthem is specifically addressed in the laws and acts of Barbados.
Hmm.
Um, and there are specific, let's talk about the national anthem. Um, you know that we would have had going into a fortnight ago this week, that town hall meeting on emblems, symbols, and celebrations.
Hmm.
And I don't want to go ad nauseum on it. I think that Kathy and Paul did a very good report
Yes.
on what happened. But I want to say that I found it a very useful exercise. I learned a lot. I learned quite a lot in preparing for my attendance and presentation at the same town hall meeting. And it has whet my appetite to even go further in
Hmm.
my study and research on these things that are dear to us, dear to the Barbadian public, whether you are a born Barbadian, whether like you, Marcia, you have been embraced through love and marriage and made Barbados your home and want to protect and preserve the country uh, um, in which you now live and where you've given birth to three wonderful sons. Um, there are things that we must respect, appreciate, and stand up literally and figuratively for. And here on the national anthem, um, they are saying that the national anthem shall be played for ceremonial purposes, etc., and come down. It should not be parodied, meaning changed up. It should not be used for the purpose of advertising. It should not be played as music for any dance. The national anthem shall be played at a tempo, and they say how it should be played. And where there's a shortened version of the national anthem is played, it shall consist of the first 12 bars of the verse and the last 4 bars of the chorus. At any time when the national anthem is being played, subject to instruction given to persons in uniform, every person shall stand at attention, and all males shall remove their head dress. So, men, when you hear the national anthem, you should remove that cap or hat. And it does not happen. And if you contravene these, you can be fined, a fine not exceeding $500, or imprisonment for a term not exceeding the month, 6 months, or both. But we, Marcia, don't take these emblems. We don't take the national anthem, and the emblems would be things like the coat of arms, the flag, um, the coat of arms, and the flag. Yes. Am I forgetting any? But these are the major ones, and these should be taken with a degree of seriousness. And even although I was never taught in 1966, as we were transitioning from under the British monarchy to an independent, a British colony to an independent nation, the importance and seriousness of that national anthem were all emphasizing us. And as I said at the town hall meeting, I was beaten at St. Philip's Girls' School by the then headmistress, who was the music teacher, Miss Hall, and her assistant, Miss Mosley, and my class teacher, Miss Dash, all, all passed for that national anthem. And it was boring. It was hard to learn initially, that rhythm and pulling it all together, but there was a sense of urgency that was passed on to us, that we had to learn these words and be able to sing it as it was on the music sheet, beat for beat, space for space, whatever. I'm not a musician, but there was a sense of urgency and reverence and respect for these emblems and for the national anthem. So I'm just putting that in there, that right here, Marcia, if you go to the official website, you will see on the cap 300A, National Emblems and National Anthem of Barbados regulations. So, gentlemen who are listening, and you are prone to keep that cap on or that hat on, not you should remove it. Not only the armed forces, but you should remove that hat and stand, that headgear, and stand at attention. Okay, Marcia, could we move now into this whole thing of the flag? But before you do, Marcia, pre allow me to just to do a little background as to why um the remains were taken to Ghana. I don't know if you've done that historical connection or overview, but just allow me a couple minutes to give a background so that those people out there who think that we didn't want that symbolic a symbolic exchange between the nations to occur, and that we're anti-prime minister for doing it. Let's contextualize it. Now, in my research, in 1998, the remains of former slaves, a Samuel Carson from New York and Crystal from Jamaica, were buried at the door at the site of the door of no return. It is now called the door of return, and it is at a town called Asin Mansour. It was the last stopping point for slaves before where they were sold and made clean for their transatlantic journey to the Americas as well as to the Caribbean islands. Now, this place, Asin Mansour, is in the central region of Ghana along the Cape Coast, where and it is said to be one of the largest towns along that coast where slaves were sold and shipped out. Now, in 1998, Ghana celebrated its first Emancipation Day. Actually, Trinidad was ahead in 1985. The Caribbean has always been trendsetters. So in 1998, Ghana had its first Emancipation Day, and it was an act between uh, undertaken by the a descendant of Samuel Carson, that African slave. His descendant was Sonny Carson, a black um, Pan Africanist, a black activist in New York, who took the remains back to be buried. Now, Marcia, I've been doing extensive research to find out if they had it wrapped in the American flag, and you know that would not have happened. So I have seen nothing to say that these remains were taken to be interred in the manner in which the ones from here were taken.
Rose, Mrs. Cor, if I could just, because I'm
Yes,
very
please.
familiar with what you're sharing, because
Please do.
in our film Joseph, we actually honored the person in the historian in Jamaica who took the remains to Ghana, who took that person. Her name is Miss Minnie, and
Yes,
we spoke with her family, etc. So I'm very acquainted with that. And just quickly, so you could get back in your presentation.
that's all right.
There was the flag, the Jamaican flag was not lowered in the ground. I can tell you that now. And also, it took them years, Mrs. Corbin, years for them to be able to get those remains to Ghana, because just the protocol of it, it took years and years. And that's why I said on this show that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Corbin, reached out to me to ask me how to get these remains to Ghana that they were planning. And I told him, I don't know. I had a film. So what I did in honoring Miss Minnie was acting. So it was just bones we got in Ghana, animal bones. So I have no clue. I just know it's a lot of protocol, lots of red tape. So that is, and I can tell you, ma'am, there was no flag was put in the ground and lowered in the ground. The U.S. flag nor the Jamaican flag. Just so you know. So, but
I
continue, please.
I thank you for that interjection. So you confirmed I have spent hours, Marcia, trying to find out how it was done, and I have seen no reference. And that was back in 1998 in celebration of the first Emancipation Day in Ghana. Now, Marcia, may I ask Dave to show us that YouTube clip that I sent on the site, the ancestral site in Ghana. It is called the Ancestral Slave River Park in Asin Manso. Could we have some audio, please? Thank you.
That is why, as you can see in the graveyard, we have the mortal remains of our two great ancestors. From the right, Madame Crystal from Kingston, Jamaica, representing the West Indies. And in the middle is Samuel Carson from New York, US of A. Madame Crystal was a young, beautiful lady who was captured from nearby landed in Jamaica as an enslaved African. But she never saw herself as a slave. She rather preferred to die than to be called a slave. While she was in prison in Kingston, Jamaica, she was one of the few females that decided to starve themselves to death in order to push for the abolishment of the slave trade. But when she did so, she endured the worst punishment of her life when she had her teeth all chiseled out in an attempt to force her to feed. The pains was so much for her to bear. In 1830, she lost her life. And according to historian, when she was about to pass on, this was the only thing she said: "Bring me back home someday." I am not sure she knew she would, but somewhere, somehow, her remains has been brought back. In the middle is Samuel Carson, the first African American without any formal education, landed in the US Navy, served with all his strength and might, died at the age of 35 years, but he wasn't given a befitting burial. So on the 31st day of July 1998, the two remains of our ancestors re-entered the country through the infamous door of no return of the Cape Coast Dungeons. And immediately they came through that door, the name on that door was changed to the door of return. The following day, being the 1st of August 1998, the two were buried here. Why were they buried here? Because they have to come back to tell that those that they left that the journey in the new world was very tough. Fast forward in 2019, it was a year of return celebration. The Prime Minister of Barbados also decided to have representation of this land. So she also excavated most slave cemeteries from Newton, Barbados. All the bones that she had, all the remains, she brought them together in a beautiful casket on the 11th of November 2019, all the way from Barbados. And that's the third tomb you see over here. Immediately after the burial, groups also petitioned that they also wanted to be buried here. But we cannot say no to you because this land equally belongs to you. So inside the graveyard was given out. And today we have 513 ashes on this land. The trade was abolished in 1807, but not slavery. With slavery, I don't know the date. I only know what the book says. That in the US of A, 1865, British colony 1834, French colony 1846, Brazil 1888. But for me, I don't believe slavery has been abolished. It has evolved into a new form. And today we have moved away from slavery in chains and shackles to mental slavery. And that is why Bob Marley told us we should emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because none other than ourselves can free our minds. We're going to make a spiritual walk to the river. But when we get to where we'll start the walk, I'll tell you something we have to do before we go. So let's make a short walk to the river.
Hey, Kofi, how about a nice group picture before we end up not doing it right here?
Okay.
How about a nice group picture before we proceed with the walk? Right, so fam, we're on the way to the Ancestral River Park walk.
Thank you,
Before we
Marcia.
go,
Thank
we're
you.
gonna
We
get a
can
deep energy of
wrap it there. Thank you. Marcia, for those who think that all we do on this show is to criticize and condemn and find fault and protest, we engage in educating, learning from each other, enlightening each other. Now, it was only drawn to my attention yesterday to go look for these three graves, these three, 3 graves, these 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 3 gra burial sites and see the one from Barbados, and that it has an inscription with the Prime Minister's name on the inscription. Now, I don't know, Marcia, if you were aware of all this, but I don't think the average Barbadian was couldn't GIS share this with us then,
So,
or
so
because
can I
of
ask you a quick question? So the inscription that is the on the grave is the prime minister's name,
the Prime Minister's name is on that grave.
and but the others have the name because I remember when we were there, the others have the names of the enslaved person.
I shall have to get it sometime and actually read what is inscribed on the grave.